Gary Vaynerchuck.
Good afternoon. Actually, there's a lot of different places I want to take this talk, so I think I'll use the context of this first question to navigate my content, and then I'll pontificate, and then we will do some Q&A, because I think the details are far more interesting than the hyperbole or the context that I roll with up here, and obviously a lot of it you can gather through YouTube and other places. So quickly, by show of hands, how many of you have no idea who I am? Please raise your hand. That fucking hurts. Tough start. I figured that to be the case, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a background on where I came from, and then we'll take it from there. So I was born in the former Soviet Union. I was born in Belarus. I came to the U.S. when I was 3. We were very poor. I lived in a studio apartment in Queens that was about the size of this stage. My dad got a bunch of side jobs. One was a stock boy in a liquor store in Clark, New Jersey, where he made $2 an hour. And that's where our American dream started. My dad eventually became the manager of that store, and we moved to Edison, New Jersey, where my entrepreneurial career began. When I was 6, I started a 6 lemonade stand franchise. So how many of you, by show of hands, remember Big Wheels, those little bikes? I rode my Big Wheels at the end of the day, picking up my cash like I was little Tony Soprano or something. So that was good. That was a good start to start making some money. When I turned 13, I started my real first big business. Baseball cards were a big deal when I was of that age in the U.S. And I started selling baseball cards in the malls of New Jersey, making $2,000 to $3,000 a weekend as a 14-year-old. As you can imagine, that's pretty big time. I don't know about you guys, but when you have $30,000 in cash under your bed and you're 14 and you're not selling weed, you're doing a good job. So that was good. And then at that point, my dad, how many people here are immigrants or a child of an immigrant? Raise your hands. Makes sense. So as you guys know intimately, when you're an immigrant, you don't spend any money on anything, and eventually you can buy your own business, and that's what my dad did. He eventually bought a small liquor store in Springfield, New Jersey, called Shoppers Discount Liquors, and when I turned 14, I had the privilege of going from making $1,000 a weekend to making $2 an hour, bagging ice for 15 hours a day. And I did that every weekend and every single summer vacation of my life for 2 years. I call those the dark ages. Eventually, my dad allowed me to come upstairs, and that's where I really learned my passion of the business my dad was in. At that point, I wasn't super interested in selling Coors Light or Absolute Vodka. There was nothing interesting about it. People bought what they bought. We sold those items at cost. We were a discount liquor retailer. I couldn't get my juices going, but wine culture was just starting in the U.S. in the mid-90s, and we were in Springfield, New Jersey, so Summit, Milburn, Short Hills, some affluence around us, so there was some wine buildup happening that I became super interested in, and because people collected wine, that was really my attachment point of the wine collecting to the baseball card and comic book and all that kind of stuff. For me, it was kind of like, Michael Jordan, Frank Thomas, Wayne Gretzky, Silver Oak, Opus One, Chateau Lafite, same shit, I can do this. So I basically moved all my attention of learning that world versus the baseball card world. This is where the story starts making a connection point between a lot of you and myself. I will make this statement predicated on what I'm about to talk about for the next 40 or so minutes before we get into Q&A, and I think it's going to make a very important connection point between all of us. There's one thing I really want you to understand as I go on with this talk. I love social media because it sells shit. Not because it's interesting. I don't like techiness. I didn't grow up with a computer until I was 18 years old. I like it because it sells stuff. And that's the important connection that I want to really make here. See, my career took an interesting turn. At 18, I decided that I was going to open up 4,000 liquor stores. I used to call it the Toys R Us of liquor stores and wine shops across the country, build the biggest franchise in the wine and spirits world, sell it, and buy the New York Jets, right? That was the game plan. And that's still the game plan, but it's taken a very different turn. And its first turn happened my freshman year in college. I was in my dorm room playing Madden 94, dominating, by the way. And my friend ran into my room and said, hey, man, you have to come and see this. I run into a room. There's 6 guys hovering over a computer. Now, mind you, I've spent less than 10 hours on a computer in my life at this point. I was a crap student, so I mailed in computer class. And I think I had a word processor that I never opened to do my papers. And so I'm sitting in front of this computer. It's the first time that I ever hear coo-coo-ch. Remember that? I want to talk about the real racket. Dial-up internet, $3 a minute. Fucking AOL. Anyway, they're sitting there. I'm hovering over him. I make a very profound statement. I say, is this the information superhighway? That's what we called it back then. I know you guys know. And there it was, the internet. I waited an hour and a half to my turn. Shows you how different the web was. Waited an hour and a half for my turn to navigate the web. And in the first 7 minutes, I landed on a baseball card bulletin board where people were selling baseball cards back and forth. And literally in that instance, I realized, holy crap, I do not need to open up 4,000 wine shops. I can use this thing to sell more wine. In 1996, about 18 months later, I launched the second e-commerce wine retail business in America called WineLibrary.com. In 1998, I took over operations for my dad's store. From 1996 to 1998, while still in school, the business ran. In the first year that we did WineLibrary.com, we did less than $5,000 in net sales on the website. Now, I don't know how many of you have a Soviet father, but Sasha Vaynerchuck wasn't super happy with the ROI on the $25,000 investment. There's something over here. I'm going to try to stay away from it. In 1998, I took over my dad's business. It did $3 million in revenue on 10% gross profit. So we're talking about $300,000 to the bottom line. Luckily, Sasha paid nobody, so we took a couple bucks home. From 1998 to 2003, in a 5-year window with no cash infusion, I grew that business from a $3 to a $60 million business, right? So I sit in a room that I very much associate with. I live in Silicon Valley world. I live in Madison Avenue world. But this room is my favorite world. You guys are operators. You run your business. I can talk about anything you want. We can talk about Facebook and Twitter and all this stuff. There's one very simple basic thing. In a 60-month period, I grew a business from $3 to $60 million in revenue on one very simple fact that 99.9% of these businesses in this room do not follow, which is I operated and, more importantly, marketed in the year that I actually lived in. Let me explain. What I did, and it's a very simple thing, is I played the arbitrage of customer acquisition. And also, real quick, while I tell these stories, I recognize that this was a B2C business, and I also recognize there's a lot of B2B businesses in there. Just to give you context, I now currently run a 600-person social and digital agency that 4 years ago was 30 people, and I've grown the business from a $3 to a $65 million business in those 3.5 years. And we're going to do $100 million in revenue next year. It's a runway. It's a very simple blueprint, which is the following. There is always an arbitrage of where you could be marketing your business, whether in a B2B or a B2C environment. However, most people don't execute and market in the year that they actually live in. 99% of the businesses in this room are marketing like it's 2007, 2004, 2001, 1996. There's some fuckers in here from the 1980s. In that white space, I live. I live in the white space while everybody else debates the ROI of these new things. In 1996, that was email marketing. I had one of the first email newsletters going. How many people here in this room have ever been close enough, have ever run email marketing, or are close enough in your business right now where you understand your email marketing? Raise your hands. Higher, just for context, please. Great. Just for all of you that are close to it, in 1996, I had an email newsletter that had hundreds of thousands of people on it that had a 90+% open rate. Yeah, wow. Because in 1996, and you guys are old, so you fucking remember. I'm old too, I'm 39. I talk to a lot of kids, that's why I'm saying it. In 1996, how many people got on email in 1996? Raise your hand, just curious. You remember? Well, yeah, I know there's some nerds in here, relax. But in 1996, we read every goddamn email. It's what we did. It was new. I remember sending email because I couldn't believe it was free, and I didn't realize that it would be free forever. I literally was like, they're going to charge for this shit because I'm never sending a letter again. How are they going to subsidize those, costs? Government shit. But anyway, the bottom line is, very simply, that's what worked for me then. Having the first e-commerce wine business worked for me then. I sat in a room like this, New Jersey Chamber of Commerce, on Route 22 in Union, New Jersey, in 1996, telling everybody that I was going to sell wine on the internet. I give my whole spiel. The opening question from somebody in the audience is, Gary, I'm very confused by this thing. Explain to me. So you're telling me at the wine library, which I know you're on Milburn Avenue, you're going to take a bottle of wine and you're going to stick it in a wire and it's going to show up at somebody's house? This was literally the discussion in 1996 about internet. Everybody told me in 1996, 7, 8, 9 that people wouldn't buy stuff. First, people didn't think people would buy anything on the internet. Then it wasn't wine. By show of hands, and this is very important, I know a lot of you want to mail it in and head nod, and I just asked you a show of hands and you guys all bullshitted. I need high hands because I want everybody to see this. And remember the following question. Lying is the devil. All right, here we go. By show of hands, how many people remember very easily, just 15 years ago or less, you being very uncomfortable and even made the statement that you would not put a credit card into a computer? Don't lie, raise your hands. Raise it high. Jesus. Now, of those people, how many of you have now put a credit card into a website? Raise your hands. That, my friends, what just happened is the single place where I live. That right there, what you in this room right now think you won't do, and what I know you're going to do, is the white space in which I will buy the fucking New York Jets. And that has been the calling card, and that is what I'm trying to inspire. One, because I'm very practical. You're about to get pumped. I'm going to make a lot of sense because I'm a businessman. I don't care about technology. I wish it didn't exist. I knew exactly how to do direct mail and radio and print. I did those things. I don't want things to change. I figured out email marketing and Google AdWords. How many people here run Google AdWords for their business? Raise your hands. I bought the word wine the day it came out for 5 cents a click and owned it for 9 months before anybody bid me up. White space. Market in the year that you live in. I know that every B2B manufacturer in this room right now can sell a ton more shit by running Facebook dark post ads right now, and they have no idea for that to be true because they're a headline reader and they're not a practitioner. You read 2 bullshit articles in the Wall Street Journal and you form your opinion and you have no fucking idea what you're talking about. So, how do I move somebody to this mental place in this talk? I give you real life examples. I talk about real stuff. I also recognize that this is going to be fun and cool and interesting and blah, blah, blah. And then next Thursday happens and you lose a deal or somebody quits and you go back to real life and you go on defense instead of offense. This, and kudos to you for getting out of the day-to-day operations, is where you need to go on the offense. But this is where you need to make religious beliefs instead of tactics. The reason most people don't win in these spaces is they're trying to win on tactics versus the religion. And here is the religion. My friends, we are living through right now the greatest shift in human communications since the printing press, and it's 5x the change of that. We are living right now through the biggest shift in the way that we communicate that we've ever seen. Guys, how many people in this room have sent an emoji via text in the last year? Raise your hands. Grown-ass 70-year-old dudes sending poop Grown-ass 70-year-old men sending poop via text on a phone. Think about that. Because here's what's happened. Here's what's happened. How many people here are lucky enough to have a 15 to 25-year-old child or grandchild in their lives? Raise your hands. This is going to be perfect. You guys remember 3 years ago when you had this awesome conversation? Hey, little Ricky. Hey, little Susie. I don't give a crap how you talk with your friends, but when your mother and father call, you pick up the damn phone. Remember that? Just curious. How'd that work out for you? I'll help you answer that question. There are grown-ass men in here who texted OMG and LOL today. How many people in this room, in every 24-hour window, including when they're sleeping, are always within arm's reach of this? Raise your hands high. I want everybody to see it. Look at everybody hold it up. People in the front, hold it up. I see some hands that went down. Please, I just want everybody to see this. Every 24-hour window within arm's reach of this. My friends, this is the first, second, third, and fourth screen in people's lives. This is the most important thing in the world. This is the closest extension to your brain in the world. I would rather somebody roll up on me, stab me in the stomach, and steal my wallet than lose my phone. And so here's one thing, Vistage, that I can tell you. Regardless of what you do for a living, every one of you is connected by one truth that matters to every goddamn person in this room, which is, before you tell me how great your business is and what you can do for me as a service provider, or you can sell me some tools, or you're a great agency, before you tell me or any other consumer what your thing is and why it's so great, you need the most important commodity in the world: attention. You need somebody's attention before you can tell them how good your thing is. And what we're doing now more than ever is wasting real big money as a collective industries on places where people are not paying attention to as much, and that is the rub. That is the opportunity. We are not spending our marketing and storytelling prowess where people are actually living in 2015, and we're spending on places that we've always done it, that we know is tried and true. It's how we've done it. We're being very romantic about how we get there, and that is the opportunity at hand. My friends, I run a big agency now: Pepsi, Unilever, GE, Toyota, big brands. The collective Fortune 500 industry is spending $80 billion producing television commercials and distributing them. By show of hands, how many people in this room, now when they watch their favorite TV show, take away sports, now when you watch your favorite television show, you watch it on your time, not when it actually airs. Netflix, HBO Go, DVR, you watch your favorite TV show on your time. Raise your hands high. Show me. Oh, weird. Everybody. This isn't the 14 to 23-year-old crowd. And if you're lucky enough that your remote control falls off your bed so you can't fast forward and a commercial actually comes, every person in this room grabs their phone and checks their email. Yet, we are spending $80 billion and you don't give a rat's ass that a Jeep is going up a hill, right? You don't care for shit. And we're throwing good money directly in the trash. How many people here can't wait to leave this great conference? How many people here can't wait to get home tonight from the Vistage conference and check their mail carefully and go through the billions of dollars that are spent on direct mail to sell you something? And what about outdoor media? Billions of dollars spent on billboards to sell us stuff. If you drive home from this conference, please look at if you remember anything from this talk, go outside now when you go home and look at 5 people driving. I promise you, every passenger is looking at their phone. All attention that used to be there 10 years ago, that's gone. Shit, 3 out of the 5 drivers are looking at their phone. So people aren't looking at billboards, they're barely looking at the fucking road. As a matter of fact, since the first time since I was 16, I'm driving with both hands because I'm scared of you guys because you're literally looking at your phone at all times. And by the way, this is not a traditional versus digital thing. How many people here have clicked a banner ad in the last year? I mean, nobody does that. It's on the bottom left-hand corner of a website. Nobody wants that. Pre-roll videos that make you watch a video for 30 seconds that you have no interest in because you wanted to see something else. Not value, stealing from us. I made an early investment in a company called Uber. That's good. But I passed on Uber's angel round and left hundreds of millions of dollars on the table, which was a real miss for me. It's because I didn't understand what Uber was really selling the first time around when I passed. In the next round, I made a connection. My brother took the first Uber in New York City because we're very friendly with the founder and CEO, and we were testing it, and I realized, holy crap, Uber doesn't sell transportation. Uber sells time. My friends, we are living through a 24/7, 365 world. Everybody here is, how many people remember working pre-internet? Just raise your hands. That's right, you guys have real context. Remember, actually, even if you were a workaholic, you worked 9 to 8 p.m., at least the day was over? There's none of that anymore. We're all on 24/7, 365, which means time has become our number one asset. We value it immensely. We will spend for it tremendously. And that is why Uber has won. As a matter of fact, how many people here have taken an Uber in New York City, tri-state area, while waiting for the Uber, have watched yellow cabs drive right by them? Literally, Uber sells the perception of time, and we go for it. This is important for you to think about the following. People that do sales in this room, a lot of people do sales. There's a big conversation between sales and marketing in my mind always, because they matter so much, and they both matter. And so many of these companies in this room in the market live on sales. And don't think enough about marketing, which then becomes a more lifetime value, higher level, can save you a lot of cost on sales. And more importantly, sales are changing. How many people in this room are willing to admit the following? This is intense. How many people are willing to admit the following? I need you here. How many people are now mad when another human being calls them? Raise your hand. Raise it high. I want everybody to see this. Raise it high. High. I want you guys to look around. Keep it up for a second. I see a lot of you dropping it because I think a lot of people don't understand this phenomenon that's happening. This is about 50% of the room. My friends, let me just say this one more time. I just asked a room full of 700 people, how many people were mad when any human being calls them? Ever. And they're mad. They're mad because they understand technology has gotten to a place where that doesn't have to be the case. They're mad because you could have texted me and I could get back to you on my time, not you bothering me on your time. Mom. And so we've lived for 70 years where marketing and advertising and sales have been in the business of disrupting you when you're doing your shit and trying to sell you. I want to listen to the ball game. They're going to stop and sell me some beer. I'm listening to a great radio show. They stop. They try to sell something. I'm reading a very good article. I turn the page. Wait, it's a full page ad for a car. I got to get around it, right? I want to go to a website. A banner ad pops up. I've got to click it, get out of the way, and then read what I want. We have been in disruptive marketing. I call you at your house and try to telemarket to you, right? This has been the game for 70 years, and there's a problem. The problem is technology has finally caught up to the actual consumer behavior. It started with boop, 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 with TiVo, and it's moving on to every technology in the world, including the next update for Apple, where they're blocking ads on your mobile device, because I think we all know there's nothing worse. There's literally nothing worse than a pop-up banner ad on a mobile device. Because as you guys know, it takes up the whole goddamn screen. I don't know if you've noticed, the X is so minuscule. I don't know about you guys, my thumb is fat as shit. I try to X out, I miss, I click it, it takes me to the wrong page. It steals 4 seconds of my time, which is really goddamn valuable at this point because the way we live. And back home at media agency world or at the brand, look how good the click-through ratio is. Meanwhile, you hate that brand. Meanwhile, after that happened to me 500 times on ESPN, I called my wife and said, no more Samsung products as long as when I'm dead, Lizzie, do your own thing, but I'm telling you right now, no more Samsung products. because the sentiment was negative, not positive. I know that we help companies like GE sell hundreds of thousands of dollars in lighting contracts by running ads against employees of companies that actually could buy that lighting contract. I know that if you use LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook properly, one salesperson can drive the sales results that a 10-person sales team can do for your business if you actually knew how it worked. I know that nobody understands that right this second, Facebook ads is the single best ad product since early Google AdWords, and the only point of view that people have on it was the organic reach went away and they tricked us to sell us ads, yet not recognizing it's the best ROI ad product of all time. And number two, the kids aren't there. Cool, agreed, but shit, a lot of people here don't need to be selling to 15-year-olds. So I know that you've heard of social media, and you hear of it as social media, that thing, and I hear it as social media, the slang term for the current state of the internet. And when you take that definition and understand the current state of the internet, it gets a lot harder in this room to bet against it. You want to bet against the internet? Knock yourself out. It's a bad idea. Because if you sit here calmly, actually this is a very important conversation to have right now because I want to navigate off of this show of hands. How many people in this room are retiring in the next 5 years? And I don't mean you're going to fucking kill it and buy a boat. I mean, you're old and you're fucking finished. So, one more time. One more time. How many people retiring here in the next 5 years? Raise your hands. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Great. So for you 6 gentlemen, I think you can take some of the, content that I'm about to roll out with some grain of salt, Really hope you enjoyed the fishing and whatever the fuck you're up to. But for the rest of you, please remember that 10 years ago today, nothing that matters in attention today existed. Not smartphones, not Facebook, not YouTube, or they just turned 10. LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat. My friends, this is the number one thing in the world. This right here. 50% of what people do on this thing is social networks. Attention. Attention. You think that your customer's not on it because you've aged down the platforms. You think it's 20-year-olds. How many people in this room on Facebook? Raise your hands. Oh, weird. Interesting. Yeah. How many people in this room on Instagram? Raise your hands. More than people would have thought. Because what we're living through, back to that culture shift, if you're bought into this religion, not the tactic, what we're living through, my friends, is something very, very fascinating, which is the age downification of our society. Let me explain. If you were lucky enough to be in this room right now and can sit here and know your age, and if you were lucky enough to know your parent at your exact age that you are now, if you're blessed enough to have known your parent at the age that you are right this second, how many people have that? Raise your hands. Now think about your parent at your age right now, how much goddamn older they were than you are acting now. We are acting so much younger in one generation. As a matter of fact, if you look at the consumer behavior, the average 42-year-old woman is acting like most 29-year-old females only a decade ago. The number one growth of selfies on Instagram is 40 to 50-year-old females. Cougar selfies. Cougar selfies. Early in Facebook, when I spoke in rooms like this in 2009, and I said, you're going to be on Facebook. You know that whole spiel I did with raise your hand? So yeah, I would segue into how many people here are not on Facebook? A lot of people raise their hands. I would say, you're going to be on it. They would be like, no. Then I would ask, actually, let's ask in here. How many people in this room at one point in their lives, probably 7, 8 years ago, said that they would never go on Facebook? Why would they do that? And have now gone on Facebook? Raise your hands. Tell the truth. So that was the game I would play, right? And so to me, what people didn't understand back then, I used to call it the grandma effect, which was I was living in the age where I knew people were putting their kids' pictures on Facebook, and if you wanted to keep up with your kids, that's where you had to be, period, end of story. It's the biggest reason so many people in this room are on Instagram now, because that's where their kids are spending their time on. There's even, how many people in this room are on Snapchat? Raise your hands. Hi. Let's clap it up for these pioneers. Come, good shit. And I know some of the old folks are here like, isn't that the site where they send the penis pictures and the sex stuff? No. That's what old white men put on media to scare you away from these things. It's the place where 125 million people go every single day and spend multiple hours. Now, those people right now are 14 to 25-year-olds. Those same people will be 25 to 35-year-olds in about, 12 to 18 months. Those people that make business decisions. Those people that influence people within their organizations to make business decisions. And it might make sense for you to have some goddamn clue of what's going on there if that's going to be the case. And that's the theory. And that's the basic principle, which is if you sit in this room right now and you run a business that does 7 figures a year and you have zero knowledge of what's going on Facebook and Instagram and Snapchat and Twitter and Pinterest, depending on your business. If you have zero knowledge and you have a 7-figure business in B2B or B2C, you, as a CEO, are not positioning your business in the right manner. You are making yourself very, very vulnerable because this shift is real because technology doesn't care about how you want the world to be. It just does it the way it's going to be. Some poor sap bought 5,000 horses before Henry Ford created the car. He lost. The price went down on that commodity because technology changed. Woolworths and JCPenney's and Sears didn't innovate. They lost. IBM's in deep trouble because of cloud services and they didn't adjust, but Amazon did. And the world goes on and on and on. And my friends, with all due respect to everybody in this room, including myself, way better, way bigger businesses than ours have gone out of business by disrespecting the year that we live in. How many people here are in manufacturing? Raise your hands. I mean, look, I assume you're paying a little attention to what's going on with 3D printing. Like, you got to. Like, you want to disrespect it, you're more than welcome. If you deploy technology growth over a 10-year window, it's very difficult to understand why in the world 15 years from this moment right now, anybody would buy a screwdriver or a part of any sorts when they can print it in their home. Your head can't totally wrap itself around that because we didn't grow up with it. But nor did your if you went and dug up your great-great-grandfather and showed him this world, he would shit his pants. He would say, what the hell is this and that and this and that? Do you know that the #1 new construction feature on suburban homes in 2015 is a door on the front door of homes so that people can drop the Amazon packages right behind it? Guys, I question myself. You know, what's really most interesting to me is that all of you know these things are happening in real life. All of you just raised your hands. Half of you don't want a phone call from another person, right? You're sending emojis to each other. You didn't know what an emoji was 24 months ago, right? All your behaviors from an everyday basis, the way you live as a human being, have shifted on you, yet you're trying to run your business as if it doesn't exist in today's environment of communication. This is a major opportunity as it is a major risk. And you're more than welcome to put your head in the sand. And I'll tell you this, the #1 quickest way to go out of business is to be romantic about how you make your money. You're more than welcome to draw a line in the sand. You're more than welcome to be super sad that when you go out to a restaurant and you see a couple sitting there and they're both on the phone, you're more than welcome to judge them how sad that is. Right? You're more than welcome to judge your grandkids or your nieces and nephews or your own kids about how they just sit at home and play Minecraft and they're fat asses because they don't go outside. Or how, this is my favorite old person talk, and I'm talking like my 30-year-old friends. Oh, these kids, they don't even know how to communicate to each other because they're always on the phone, right? They don't know how to communicate. Meanwhile, what you were doing on that same Tuesday afternoon, 30 years earlier, was you were outside throwing a tennis ball against a wall, playing wall ball by yourself. And more importantly, what's way more interesting to me is, where the hell do you think the world's going? Like, what do you think your kids and these youngsters' lives are going to look like in a digital era? You think we're going backwards? You think everybody's going to melt their phones? And like, we're going to be anti-technology? This is going in one direction. And what I'm passionate about and what I have fear for is the level of disrespect for how big of a shift this really is and how intense it changes your industries.
Wil jij het volgende niveau bereiken met jouw business? Kijk dan eens op jerryvanstaveren.nl.